Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk to you again. How do you order a banana daiquiri in Havana? How do you order? What do you say to the cocktail waiter who's going by? You're just trying to. 7 decades ago, you're just trying to have a drink with your brother in Havana, in Cuba, just before it fell to the communists. How do you ask for a banana daiquiri? And of course, Michael Mann, he sent the movie version of Miami Vice went over to Havana as well, didn't it? And I'm a big fiend for mojitos, a big fiend for mojitos. And in the TV series Edward James Olmos, every time he opened his mouth, it was much more powerful. It had much more of an effect. His statements were given much more respect because he said so little. Because most of the time, he was silent. How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Egg immediate post-match reaction pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Check out Jersnet tonight, Sunday night. It's going to be live on the Jersnet YouTube channel, the flagship show, 9:30 p.m, hosted by Rob, and his guests are going to be Alan and Scott. So that's a fantastic show lined up. They will have plenty to discuss, not just what happened on the field today, but of course what happened yesterday, and perhaps going a bit back to Thursday night if we really have to up at Dens Park. Sponsored by that, and I'm also sponsored by Francis Canner Vice Beer. Francis Canner Vice Beer. I was talking about that in the podcast last night, my preview pod for Rangers versus St Johnstone, which was really a reaction, of course, to the kind of queer eye treatment we were getting from the one and only Patrick Stewart. See, there was somebody Kirk playing for St Johnstone today. I think that's them trolling us. It's Picard. We're very much Picard. Patrick Stewart. But I was talking about the Vice Beer, and I was talking about how it's Francis Canner, Franciscan monks, in the front of the Vice Beer, £2.50 in Morrison's just now, and it's down on the bottom shelf. And I started this whole thing that didn't really finish because of an extended ranting and raving last night. I'm going to try and cut this one short tonight. I've already said enough. I think over the last few days, the last few pods, doing your nuts in, folks. Thank you very much for your patience, but of course I've got this whole thing going on. It's a bit of a tradition with my pods. When I started I was doing them in the Jersnet post-match reaction pods just over a year ago. Last game in December 2023 for Rangers, we lost at Parkhead by 2-1. That was Philip Clement's first defeat as Rangers manager. And started this wee thing, because there's going to be, you know how it works with the old pod, and it's not a thing for me. I don't tend to go into, if Rangers beat Celtic, as we did just quite recently, I don't really feel the need to go into Celtic podcasts. I just know I'm going to hear something I don't like, or I'm going to hear something that will tempt me into replying, and it's my own fault. So, I shouldn't really be there. So I don't get into that kind of thing. But I'm not beyond the Schadenfreude thing. If Celtic getting beat, I will watch it on the telly and have a wee chuckle to myself and quite enjoy it. But you've got to know your enemy to a certain extent. A lot of good pals, a lot of good Celtic supporters out there, a lot of nice guys, just united by our love for the game. Just happens what side of the barrier you're born on, what side of the divide you're born on, it's what team you're going to go. But I don't want to go and get myself kind of frustrated and angry. So I don't intend to watch Celtic podcast, but we know this is what happens in the real world of podding. The numbers for Celtic podcasts, I would imagine, go up. Lots of extra viewers. When Rangers fans are in there, a bit of Schadenfreude, want to mock them in their time of pain and agony, and it's very much the case when it comes to Rangers podding. I think the biggest hit Jersnet ever got was Colin and I talking after we did the post-match reaction pod after Ange Postecoglou's only victory, Ibrox, and it got 50,000 views. 50,000. It's just there was more views for that pod than there was punters in the stadium almost. Quite incredible. I think that was the biggest hit ever in Jersnet. But no, maybe there'll be more, obviously, from Rangers fans when we win the Europa League this season. So I started knowing that when you're doing these podcasts, there's going to be as many people wanting to rub your face in it as there is. I did a wee kind of self-deprecating joke where I started this thing off doing a rant and a rave at the beginning, being really boring. The idea is I'm trying to get rid of the Celtic fans, so I'll go in some kind of reverie about the price of salt and vinegar crisps in 1978 or something like that. Just the idea is I'm trying to bore you, and it doesn't fool anybody. You just keep listening. You get there, and eventually you'll get to the bit where I'm slagging Rangers, and I'm displaying all the pain of a Rangers fan after a Rangers defeat, a Rangers setback. But it becomes it's quite good fun. It's a good laugh and all that. It shows we're not taking things too seriously. But last night, well, it was more a case of Rangers. This had probably reached the all-time kind of Schadenfreude for the enemy, kind of low. We didn't. I mean, we drew at Dens Park the other night. There was no Rangers game yesterday, but when the board have got to come out and issue the old statement backing the manager, give him the vote of confidence, then that really is as bad as it's going to get. Because even if we've sacked the manager, if it came out yesterday, we actually sacked Philip Clement, and that gives a lot of Rangers fans, as we know, as we'll come on to discuss, would have got a lot of hope out of that. It's a time of renewal. You know you're going to get the new manager bounce. We've been playing really badly just now. We'd found ourselves 18 points behind Celtic last night, albeit with a game in hand, that all-important game in hand. And so to change the manager, could it make things any worse? It would maybe upset a few Celtic fans thinking, oh no, they're getting rid of that guy that's given us so much joy this season, that manager. So I felt as if that was reading a really extended, kind of boring, just like what I'm doing just now. It does come naturally to me as well. I'm going to admit that. It's going a whole long, boring, verbose rant, but I really go for it after a Rangers setback to try and get rid of all the interlopers. But I know the interlopers know that I'm doing it. It's a good laugh, isn't it? It's a good laugh. It's all. But last night I thought I'm going to have to go on an extra long one because it's an all-time low when you've actually got to come out and publicly back your manager. And but I also kind of intertwined that with my genuine feelings on stuff, as you might have noticed. I do these long rants at the beginning that are supposed to be a bit of a laugh, but so I went on and on and on. And one of the things I actually ended up losing the thread, and one of the things I was discussing, which was the Franciscaner vice spear, the monk, the wee fella had got in touch with me, a Celtic fan. I'm just saying wee fella, I have no idea what he looks like. He could be 7 foot tall and 78 years old for all I know, but just come across, the tweet came across like a young wee kind of Celtic fan having a wee chippy go, and he was talking about how I was wearing a hoodie in one of my pods. I think it was the pods. Hogmanay before the Old Firm game, a preview pod of the Old Firm game. You're wearing that hoodie, then it makes you look like a Franciscan monk. No, that's a Franciscaner. It's a Cistercian monk, I think he said, and I was like, very good. And then I was raging because Yanis Hadji hadn't scored. He'd scored in 15:07, 7 minutes into the Old Firm game that kicked off at 3 o'clock, so it's 15:07, but it's been 15:17. That's the year, of course, that Protestantism was born, when Martin Luther, who was an Augustinian monk, he nailed the 95 Theses to the door, the church door in Wittenberg, protesting indulgences, plenary indulgences and all that kind of thing, Catholic church stuff. And I was going to give it well, Martin Luther was a Catholic, Jesus was a Jew, and that's somebody the person that starts the new thing that you hate was part of the old thing that you love. It's always a so I was going to get into all that, and I totally admit, because if Yanis Hadji had scored that goal just 10 minutes later, it would have been absolutely perfect, but I couldn't find that. But there I was realising I'm actually having the Franciscaner vice spear as well. I must have had about 2 dozen of them. I had the last 2 on Friday night over the whole festive period, and I was talking about being in Morrison's, and because they're on the bottom shelf, they're practically on the floor in the drink aisle in Morrison's, and only kind of two bottles wide. So somebody comes along, gets down there and picks them up. As a fat man, as a very fat man, made fat by the vice beer, amongst other things, you actually have to get down on my hands and knees to get down there. I'm just scrabbling about the floor for beers. That's a bit stupid looking. And so I turned round to the opposite side of the aisle, and at eye level, it was the Erdinger, which isn't as good, but it's no bad. It does the job. The Erdinger, I prefer the Erdinger on draft. That's always really nice. But so the Erdinger was there, and I got a couple of them. And as I turned back round, we had a few Erdinger in my basket. There's a boy same age as me, probably the same weight as well, down there on his knees, getting in there to get all the Franciscaner. And I'm thinking, I'm just jealous actually. I wish I had done that. I'm no embarrassed at all. I'm no embarrassed for him. I'm no slagging him. He's getting the Franciscaner, so he wins. But the whole idea of that was supposed to be a callback there later on in the pod, and I was supposed to come back and tell you that we're supposed to kind of prostrate. It's good to prostrate yourself sometimes to get what you want. Sometimes you have to kind of give in and give it. No, we all want to give it. Rangers should be winning all the time. We should be winning at Dens Park. We should be winning at St Mirren. And we never have. We never have won all the time. Well, we did that 1899 when we won the 18 games. Okay, right, you got me. But that was it. We've never won all our games in the league campaign to the extent where we can be absolutely raging to the point of walking out in the club when we don't win at Paisley and at Motherwell and at Dens and at Easter Road in between times. And I know not winning at any of them 4 away games in a trot is substandard for Rangers, but I've seen things worse. I've seen things far, far worse at Rangers, even before 2012, and we might have been getting better results. Might not have gone 4 straight away games in the league without winning at some points in the late 70s, early 80s, and all that mid 80s. And you shouldn't take your low points as to judge yourself. You shouldn't say, well, that means if we've been that crap in a season once, it's acceptable to do it again. I get that argument. But the whole point for me was we should prostrate. But no, sometimes when you've got the full context, which is the state we're in financially, that we haven't had a CEO for 6 months. The first 6 months of this season, I got back to the summer, got back to June, I think it was, that Bisgrove went over to Saudi Arabia. Why would he want to leave this? No, he goes over to Saudi, and that was us, and the chairman's, who's only kind of new in the door himself comparatively in that role. He then, John Bennett gets ill, so he's obviously got to step away, quite rightly, and that's leaving us in a bit of flux there. That just, the amount of players we've got rid of. I've done the whole context thing relentlessly this season. We've had to. And the idea that you can rage and just getting rid of the manager is the only... That's somehow going to appease the context. It's going to make everything better suddenly. And we're going to be fantastic. I just don't think that's the answer. And I think Philip Clement has done enough in various games, in various bigger games. I know that's a charge against him. He only does well in the big games. But he has done enough, I think, to prove that when you add the state of the club in general, it's maybe not him that's to blame, or not at that point yet, and knowing we're to blame. And what's the harm, I feel, in having a bit of patience? It might not be very Rangers-like. We want to run about and behave, show our standards. We expect to be the best team in the country, and I think that's what a lot of this has been about. This, the protest and the RSA statement, or the protest from the Union Bears today, all totally understandable. I think we need to remind the club, that this isn't what we're all about. Don't start settling for this. Don't start settling just for second place and blah, blah, blah. But I feel it is a rebuild. It has to be a rebuild. The number of players we'll get rid of, and the paucity of the rebuild of the squad so far, the paucity of the signings, the incomings, it means we have to be in the middle of a rebuild. We can't be stopping at this. I'm not accepting this, but I think that to stop this project before the end of the season, at least that would be. I think that could be too soon. I would like to give Clement to the end of the season and to next season, as it stands just now. But we should maybe just not get on one knee and roll about the floor in Morrison's Anniesland to try and get the last rat dropping infested bottle of Francis Canner like a total alky. Morbidly obese guy who's now spilling all the McCoys and Golden Wonder crisps out of his basket. You shouldn't be taking it that far, making a complete arse of yourself, but I think every now and then it serves you well to just go, right, we're going to have to just swallow our pride a bit here, take this in the chin for a while, so when we come back bigger and stronger than ever. Because until we get investment, until we get some serious money dropped on us, it's going to be, we need a kind of cheat code. We need to do something to try and get ourselves back up to catching up with Celtic financially. Never mind, that is how we will catch up with them in terms of winning league titles again. So it's going to have to be something like this. It's going to have to be a bit of short-term pain, maybe even long-term pain, a bit of patience, something we don't usually display, to just get us back there. So I'm sorry I didn't do the whole bit about the Vice beer coming back, and it was supposed to be prostrating yourself, and that's it was going to be really neat, and then, but it's just nothing that Rangers these days is going smoothly at all. My name is Alec Anderson, chained to my pillars, a 3-day party. I'll break the walls, kill us all with holy fingers. You can gouge away. Stay all day if you want to, whether it's Paz, whether it's Kim Deal, nah, Paz or Kim, doesn't matter. It's still absolutely fantastic. It still applies, it still rocks. You can gouge away all you want, it still absolutely rocks. Doesn't matter if it's Philip Clement, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, Steven Gerrard, Walter Smith. Walter Smith hated he came out and just said he couldn't stand it. We deserve better patter. Seriously unstaunch, and we've got a wee version of that going on just now, which is more justified, I think, in the current context. But it doesn't matter if he's in the dugout, and it's just, there's a certain aspect to us that should always rock, that should always apply, that should never really change, despite changes in personnel. And we got close to touching a bit of it today. Bit of drama with the wee walkout on 55 minutes. I didn't even know that was something that was planned, so that was quite interesting, the way it all worked out. But the main thing, my name's Alec Anderson, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking to you outside Ibrox. I'm trying to make this as normal as possible, this post-match reaction. I've already binned that straight away. Just too much drama with Rangers these days. But I'm talking to you after Rangers beat St Johnstone by 3-1 in the SPFL Premiership. To go back to 15 points behind Celtic, 9 points in front of Aberdeen, and we get a chance to finish them on Wednesday. But the real problem now, of course, is Dundee United. But we're 7 points in front of them with a game in hand, and that'll be our next SPFL Premiership game after we have Aberdeen here on Wednesday. But today it was all about seeing a reaction from the players after the statement yesterday from Patrick Stewart, saying that our manager was safe for now, but there was no cast iron guarantees, and sacking him was no silver bullet, and all various metals and precious metals getting mentioned in that statement for Patrick Stewart yesterday. So, after failure to win at Dens, failure to win at Easter Road, and strangely the last time we were here we also scored 3 goals, beating the team at the top of the league, and today we scored 3 goals and then conceded 1, beating the team at the very bottom of the league. It was just weird. The whole thing is just, they did feel like a kind of caesura. It did feel like a line had been drawn, but it was kind of after the Lord Mayor's show with the hysterical reaction. It's our angry reaction, not hysterical. It's a lot of the reaction, a lot of the railing against what's been going on with our away form. And it came to a kind of a low. It hit a low at Dens Park. The players getting pretty much abused by the away support at Dens Park and getting booed down the tunnel and told they can get lost. And the statement from the Rangers Supporters Association, statements for the Union Bears saying you've got to get rid of this manager at least, and the board have got to have a look at themselves and all that. The board have just discovered who they are because they've just been employed, half of them. But it was definitely something had to be done. So we got the wee statement yesterday. It was just a weird kind of feeling the day. I'm parking the car. It was we're back to that kind of creepily warm weather, despite the time of year. I'm parking the motor, and I'm just doing the usual routine, walking past Craigton Grocers. They've got a lovely new sign. I don't know how new that sign is, Craigton Grocers, but it's another kind of black with the white writing behind it, obviously. It'll be illuminated by the time I walk back past it again after this. So it's really quite smart. And there's a couple of, I don't know if there's a shop next to it, I can't really remember. There's another business next to it, or is it just like the rest is? It's only kind of half opened. On a Sunday, there's a couple of big, these things here, what are these things behind me here? The kind of shutters, the metal shutters pulled down, and there's a bit of kind of vandalism, graffiti. A graffiti artist has done a big eye. I think it's meant to be like, an eye, your eye, not the letter I, your actual eye, on each of them. There's a big pair of eyes kind of looking at you, and you can't tell if they're sad and you can't tell if they're happy because there's no mouth between them and there's no tears coming from them, but there's definitely a glint in them, but not much of a glint. And I thought that just kind of sums up what it's like today. And I walked on up the road, and you get past the Dragon City, the Chinese outside it. There's the bin. The bin, the council bin. It's like a pillbox, like the black thing with the hood on it, and you put your rubbish in through the wee slots. It's got the big Glasgow City Council coat of arms on it, and it was absolutely rammed. And then on top of it, somebody's put a big poly bag from Asda that's rammed with extra rubbish. And I thought, that's Celtic, top of the league, and it's black days for us, and it's rubbish. And I don't know, And I get to the top of that street. I've walked up so many times, and there's hooses. It's number 172, 178, and all that. That they obviously used to be all one house, but they've split them, didn't they? They had a wee kind of bathroom window that was quite thin and dainty anyway, but then they've split the hooses in 2. And they seem to have put the wall through the middle of this dainty wee window. So you've got these tiny windows. Again, like the pillbox thing, this is more like a medieval castle, where you get in there with your for the guys to fire, the archers to fire their arrows out of them, they kind of slots. But they've got different kinds of double glazing on them, and yet they're right next to each other. They used to be the one window, now they're split in 2, and they've got different types of double glazing. The sashes are at different points, and you cut onto the road, you're walking along there, and it's a big Jarvey plant on the main road, double You know, they only get the island up the middle of the road and that kind of thing, a dual carriageway, and it's Jarvie Plant. I always think Drew Jarvie was playing when I went to my first game. No, wasn't playing in the game, but he was still a player at that time. I went to my first Rangers game in 1977. He's very much still playing, Drew Jarvie. I think he probably played against us in 1978. Scottish Cup final, 1978-79 League Cup final, maybe. But I just always think, I wonder if Drew Jarvie did plant one in the box, in the goal at Ibrox for Rangers. Almost certainly Aberdeen always got good results against us in those days at Ibrox every now and then. A big, I don't know what it is that goes on in there, but it's quite appropriate with Aberdeen coming down here on Wednesday night, and you walk along past the wee Rangers club, you know, which I've not been in since the day we drew 1-1 with Celtic at Parkhead, and it was Billy Dodd equalised for us. Was it Mark Viduka scored for Celtic? That's like 20 years ago. So I was in there with my mate Alan. I've not been in the wee Rangers club since then. There's always folk coming out, having had a few drinks, and you've already passed the roundabout where the Aldi's is, and the is it Lidl? Lidl, I can't remember, too many letters are the same. You get the Greggs, you get the Starbucks in there, no, just in for Asda. Yeah, close for that, you get the police station at Helen Street, and on the left hand side you go past that, the lovely big blue railings, and you're looking through them at that kind of call centre that's down a wee grass slope, which is the actual terracing from the original McKenna Park. No, the original, but the last but one McKenna Park where St Anthony's played that team in green and white that were the closest team to Rangers, and now they're way back. You can still walk to it, no bother for here. Back at Cardonald they've moved to, but they're in the distance, aren't they? They're in the distance, that team in the green and white hoops. And you walk past that and you get to the other roundabout, and that's where the police have cut it all off before you go into Edmiston Drive, which is the most beautiful thoroughfare in world football, and it's in through turnstile number 32 and up the gorgeous steps of the beautiful ocean-going liner that is the Ibrox main stand, and out you come, and it's the crowd it was quite busy. I was expecting it to be actually quieter than it was. I got parked a bit closer. I didn't have to walk as far to get past the Craigton Grocers. That's usually the point I know I'm kind of getting within range at Ibrox, but it wasn't a bad crowd, but there's a few faces missing, a few folk not there today, which makes it a bit colder, a bit more quickly in the stadium, even if it's a milder day generally than it has been. Raskin returns in place of Connor Barron, and we have Danilo in place of the last couple of games not really getting at it. Nedim Bajrami, he's on the bench, Bajrami, and Danilo comes in to play in that kind of 10 role behind Igaman. So that's the only changes to the starting lineup at Dens Park, which means we've still got the likes of Liam Kelly in goals, a central defensive Robin Proper, and Clinton Inciala playing what is effectively basically his second game of first team football in his entire life. First team, senior football, it was youth team at Non, youth team at Milan, youth team here, reserves here, and that was him making his debut the other night. And I don't know, that's why he's a contribution to the goal we lost up at Dens Park. We do score another goal, we don't lose any other goals. We didn't play well, but when you look at what's happening to our defence, you look at the lack of players we have, the lack of bodies we have, I can't really be completely down on the manager in any way, or completely down on the team, but it was early on in the game that I realised, there's a wee protest going on here. I've seen something for the Union Bears on Twitter or Blue Sky or something like that. I'd seen a wee notice from them, and I thought, that's fine, they're having a go. The manager, everybody is, that's fine. But I didn't realise it was going to take the form it did of silence, and that's the callback. That's the callback to the monks part at the beginning, because here we've got the Trappist monk thing going on, but it's just total silence. It's a silent order. Except for the noise made by the unravelling of banners, and then the songs that did get belted out were. It disturbs me. That the Glasgow Rangers, it's in your own hands, is the same tune as Glasgow Rangers, You Let Your Club Die, which we hear so often from opposition fans. I don't think it's a coincidence either. If we carry on too much with the walking away from the club, then it will die for real this time. But no, it's the young guys. The Union Bears, the young guys, and you can tell the atmosphere. There's just zero atmosphere when the boys aren't doing their singing, when they aren't leading the choir, when they aren't being the choir, and that's fair, And the choir in the sense of let's go off. Either the choir, the chorus in the sense of Greek tragedy. They're continually telling us, they're the people that are telling us what the general state of affairs is. And if they're no singing, then things are pretty bad. The only other time they did that, coincidentally, with Aberdeen coming to town midweek, I can remember, was after they'd taken it tight from the board for the sectarian abuse of Steve Clark. And it was just a wee... It was an embarrassment. It just didn't... It didn't scan with the atmosphere. That song's been kind of eradicated from the Ibrox support, but it was just so quiet. And Steve Clark had said something about us at some point or other that had annoyed them, and we were beating them 5-0 in the Scottish Cup. So the club come out to condemn it quite rightly. It's because the rest of the stadium was so quiet. It wasn't even sung that loudly by that many people. But I was just like, that's not right. So they got condemned by the club, and the Union Bells are like, oh, is that right then? Right, well, we'll just go and strike and the next time we're playing at home was a Scottish Cup replay against Aberdeen. And Aberdeen put us out, and it was a massive contribution to that game, a massive contribution to Rangers losing that game. And you wondered if that was going to be the case today. You think Rangers were 1-0 up after 16 minutes, 16 kilos. Igaman, typical of the Moors, typical of, Islam, to just deny me the 15-17. So it was 15-16. Igaman gets the first goal. We're 2-0 up 20 minutes. We're 3-0 up within the half hour quite easily. That's the response you're looking for. That's the response you're looking for from the team. But then it just kind of faded, didn't it? It just kind of faded. We came out... Scintillating stuff. We get Nico Raskin back control and stuff. You get Diamande sitting beside him, just giving us that bit of energy. Danilo was doing so much better than Nadeem Bajrami has been in that kind of 10 slot recently, even though he's as much a kind of co-striker as he is a creator in that role. Danilo the Brazilian. What would Yanis Hadji playing out left? Cherny wide on the right, he must be exhausted. And of course, Igaman's sometimes coming off the left, but he's basically our out-and-out striker. And the first goal, all energy from Rangers, definitely going for it despite the strange atmosphere. And the first goal was a kind of, it reminded me, if anything, of our second goal in the second leg of the Europa League semi-final against RB Leipzig. The way, Aribo and Glenn Kamara's goal, the way they're sliding the ball about, kind of running the ball along the grass, along the lines, the ley lines almost, that are usually the ball's floated across from crosses from the wing. It's going along the grass, it's kept low, and it ends up, I don't know who worked it, was it Diamande, I think, works it back to Igaman, who's picked the space, who is in the spot that the manager was saying he should be, in between the posts. He was saying that after the game at Dens Park the other night, and there's Igaman in there to sweep it away into the net. 1-0 Rangers, really early doors, takes a bit of the tension off, because you knew, despite Patrick Stewart kind of drawing a line under things yesterday, if it hadn't gone well today, things would have got pretty bad a lot quicker. Pretty bad again, really quickly. So that's us. We're 1-0 up after like 16 minutes. And what was the next goal? I think it's Danilo. St Johnstone are coming at us. That's a thing. I hate doing that thing of slagging Rangers or doing down the opposition. The only reason Rangers beat them was because the opposition were, not really trying, like Celtic in the 2nd of January or whatever. I wouldn't believe in that, but today you could definitely see a case for what was going so wrong for Simo Valakari at St Johnstone. The guy who was in the stand, he was their manager, just it had all been sorted out, but officially he wasn't ready to take over until the next day, and he was in the stands when we played them the Sunday night, and the first time he came to Ibrox in the league this season, and we beat them 2-0 with 2 goals from Václav Cherny, and there's Simo Valakari is the manager when we get our first away win in the league this season, our first domestic away win this season, and it was Yanis Hadji was the guy who gets sent off that night. Valakari was in the stand. Hadji comes back, the man who was out of the reckoning, was in dispute with the club when we beat St Johnstone in the League Cup at Hampden, when Hampden was our home earlier in the season. It was Craig Levine was St Johnstone manager then. Hadji gets sent off in that Sunday night game. We're just coming off the bench, making his first start for first appearance for Rangers since the resolution of that dispute, and the first away win we get this season, it's up at McDermott, and it's Yanis Hadji who puts a fantastic ball, really instinctively brilliant ball back onto the onto the goal line that ends up Jason Holt has to push it over his own line because James Tavernier's on top of him up at McDermott for a first away domestic win in the season. Then Yanis Hadji's is playing away today and having limited. He was doing a lot of running about, Yanis Hadji. Nothing was particularly tidy today up at Rangers, but he was definitely part of the energy we were giving it. As we might well have sealed it for Sebo Valakari. I don't know what's going on with him at St Johnstone, but I think that's them 9 points adrift now at the bottom of the table. And it was Danilo, I think. They were doing that thing, they were coming up, they were definitely trying to have a go at St Johnstone. They were playing a bit of a high line, if anything, which let us just do what we will do to teams who play a high line. This is why teams sitting against us. Danilo, a lovely ball, and Václav Černý has angled his run like the expert he is, and he goes through on goal. And it goes, but in the process of even him going through and goal, you're thinking, is this going to get called back for offside? Because I'm sitting up the opposite end of the park, really. Hard for me to judge. The ball goes in the back of the net, and there's a kind of half-muted cheer because there's such a strange atmosphere being created by the Union Bears. There's such a lack of enthusiasm about the team in general. It's one of those, nothing to be gained type of games. We can't really win. All we can do is make things worse. In this game today, but the ball goes in the back of the net, and there's added strangeness to the fact that half of us are waiting for it to be offside. Linesman doesn't put his flag up. There is a VAR check, quite long, but it's 2-0 to Rangers after 20 minutes. This is absolutely lovely. This is just what we're needing. And then we had a ball getting played. I think it's Černý himself plays one of his lovely balls into the far side of the St Johnstone box. One of their centre halves is kind of reaching, he's stretching to get it. He gets his head onto it, but just puts it right into the path of Mohamed Diamandi, and up goes the Ghanaian Ivorian to head it straight into the net. Just a gifted chance, and that's it. 25 minutes gone, Rangers are 3-0 up. This is what we want. This is what we need. You just need a response for the team. But listen, let's be honest. You're just thinking, if they're going out and 1-6-0 today, it'd be like, they're only doing that because the manager was getting, a rap in the knuckles yesterday. It's just a token gesture. They're not going to get any credit for that, so they might as well do what they did, which is completely switch off and save themselves for Wednesday night to get more points on board. But it created a lovely atmosphere because the Union Bears had unravelled all their banners, and I can't quite see them again. I'm in the over towards the kind of 18-yard line of the Copeland. I'm in the main stand, but I can't quite see all the banners. But there's a whole lot of stuff about you've let the club down and you need to go, and it's in your own hands. And that song they're singing, and that was only they did sing couple of songs of protest, and that was it, no other songs. And some people are applauding the banners, but I've just heard a few folk booing them behind them. All right, okay. And it's nice for me because sometimes you feel, because the people who want kind of radical action, a bit more fundamentalist in their attitude to these things all the time, want to burn everything down, always tend to be louder, tend to be louder. And they tend to be younger and more energetic as well. I was the same at that age. Everyone's really dramatic back then. You sometimes think, well, maybe me just thinking we should stick by Clermont. I'm just being completely stupid and completely blind to the general consensus. But no, there's a bit of booing. A lot of folk not happy with the Union Bears today. So that was fine. That's fine. It's nice and split. And then half-time, we had Maurice Ross doing the half-time draw, which added to the sensational atmosphere. Per Mo, I thought he should have got a bit more applause than that. I thought that was out of order. Maurice Ross, a key member of Alec McLeish's team at that point. But it was, anyway, Maurice Ross comes out, does a half-time draw, and it was what is that song we play when we come out for the second half? It's one of the oi you nutters club classics. That's obviously I was like a pensioner by the time it was actually released, but it's now a classic in its own right for the kind of hardcore clubbing types. But it's all about when the beat drop, when the drop of that song. And I thought it'd just be brilliant because what had happened before we went 3-0 up. Wee voices up the back of the Copeland started giving it, shall we sing a song for you? And I'm thinking, oh no, the Union Bears are getting taunted here. The young dudes are getting taunted. And then it went into, was it the sash or the cry was no surrender or something like that? Old school classics. And a bit of a song swept through the Broomlin and through the main stand where I'm sitting. It was nice. It was nice just to show that, if it all come down to it, if the Union Bears weren't here to be our choir, there's enough folk with a good drink in them of my age that'll eventually get things going again. And I thought it'd been really nice if by the time the team came out for the second half and that that club classic was dropping its beat, we could all been because there was a lot of room to move about. We could all been throwing some shapes, not because it was named dead there. But I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was then going to happen because we came out and we got a corner within like 30 seconds, and that's when I just thought to myself, this is this is Fredo turning to Michael and just saying, I wish things could have been like. How could we not have spent time like this before? How could we not have spent time like this together before? We're 3-0 up at half time. We've won a corner within 30 seconds of the second half starting. This is what it's supposed to be like. This is what we're supposed to do all the time. How could it not have just been? How do you ask for a banana daiquiri? I think you just say banana daiquiri. Oh, God, I knew it was you. You broke my heart, Fredo. But I thought this is just absolutely brilliant. And then St Johnstone got a corner, which is a weakness. A charge that's been levelled at Philip Clement. So St Johnstone, who'd done nothing all game, get themselves a corner. They made 2 subs themselves, taking Nicky Clark and somebody else off at half time. The corner goes in, and it just ends up in the back of your net because it's a corner. We don't do set pieces either way. We don't score from them, and we don't defend them. So that was it. The team that are 9 points adrift at the bottom of the league just walked a corner into the back of your net. Total silence, and that was perfect because it was about 54 minutes, which meant the Union Bears were completely just. It just proved their point to them. I mean, everybody was happy today. Everybody got what they wanted. Nobody's mind was changed by anything that occurred today. Ball goes in the back of the net. Terrible goal for us to lose. Kind of silence from everybody. And the Union Bears, who had been silent, started singing. We unravelled another banner about somebody having to go. And they got up and started leaving. And other people must have known this was going to happen. So older Bears not just start booing them. They're back in, boo, you bastard. And that's the worst possible time to think I should go for a pie, you know what I mean? Because sometimes you just wait until after half time. But I don't do that, but it would be funny if I'd gone for a pie. I'm coming back. Everybody's booing, get David. No, I'm coming back. No, don't come back. No, I mean, I'm coming back. I'm just going to get a pie and come back. But the whole place was an uproar. We're fighting amongst ourselves. It was the Cammy Fraser giving the Govan the Vickies after scoring against St Mirren. Times 100. It was a bit sad, but it was also a bit funny to see. us all kind of shouting and moaning amongst ourselves. And of course, the Union Bears, it took them ages to get out. There's Armstrong and Miller. Armstrong and Miller used to have Alexander Armstrong that does Pointless and all that, and Ben Miller who does everything. All sorts of actings at Death in Paradise, whatever it is. They used to have a Channel 4 kind of sketch show. They did some of it was quite good. I remember watching it back in Chuffy. But I don't remember they did one sketch which two kind of business guys that have obviously been in a meeting with each other, and they're outside the office. Go, well, that was fantastic, Dave. Yeah, I think there was a lot to chew over there. Really value your input. No, it was fantastic, Michael. Thanks very much. And they go, right, okay, see you next. So it's next Wednesday, 7:30. Okay, see you. And then turns out they're both going the same way. They're both walking to the same. Are you going this way to the train station? I am going this way as well. All right. So they've got to walk along with each other after having. And I felt as if that was the kind of energy, the same energy today. When the Union Bears like, right, we're out of here, and everybody's like, boo, and then like, no, we're fucking going. You happy clappers, just stay here and make sure Rangers stay shite, and we're like, I don't get the fuck your trails. We don't do walking away. Right, well, if I could just let a minute, if I could just get these stewards out the way, I could maybe because it always gone on to the aisle at the same time. It's like, boo, no, I can't keep booing because I was just up late last night and the back of my throat's kind of a bit dodgy. It would just petered out into. Still waiting to leave. There was a bit of a queue here. We kind of got up these steps at the same time and boo, by the way, boo. It's like everything at Rangers this season. It was completely half-arsed. But eventually the Union Bears all left, and I think the way it all petered out today, and that Rangers did win. But also the Union Bears had their point because we lost a stupid goal for a corner and we're only super impressive. It probably just kept everybody safe in their own opinions about the Clement reign, but unless there's plenty of scope for disaster on the park coming up, unless something particularly disastrous happens. I think that'll be us to the end of the season. I think it's let us all get it out of our system, and I think the CEO has handled it quite well. But what then happened was 65 minutes we substituted. We took off Igaman and we took off Cherny, and the lady in front of me saying, well, what's the point of doing that, because we should be scoring some more goals here and all that. And she was quite right. That took the threat off. On comes Big Cyril, who has scored against St Johnstone this season at League Cup game, and Cortez come on at that point. Cortez the killer, and we just it kind of fizzled out. The game fizzled out in general. St Johnstone tried to break on us a few times. Robin Proper, as it got towards half time, in the end of the first half, he was holding like somebody whose brass strap had snapped. And I know what that's like. He was kind of holding that on, like holding his shoulder when he was running about, and I thought, oh, he's going to be injured as well. So it's just about getting bodies back for Wednesday night, hopefully, and the manager is treating it, and that's what I was trying to say. I know we want the team to go out and score like 5 or 6 today, but Clement's kept his focus. He knows what he's doing. He's just looked at himself, this game's won, you know, which is brave, because if St Johnstone got another corner, we're going to pull it back to 3-2. I think they had 2 corners and he scored from one of them. But he's just looked at himself, look, let's just get, this game's won. We've got to make sure we keep the players that we do have fit, the game winners that we've got, keep them safe for Wednesday nights, and probably for Old Trafford as well. So he got them off as soon as possible, but it did fizzle out. Cyril Dessers had a couple of chances of the ball coming in his general region, and he doesn't look ready. That's the problem. He doesn't look ready for it. And Cyril Dessers has done us well this season. I think one of the charges against Clement, which I thought is kind of malicious, it certainly doesn't make any sense. I heard somebody saying, oh well, it's finally we've seen him. You know, he's realised that Cyril Dessers isn't the man that should lead the line. It's like, no, he didn't have anybody else. It was, I think he always knew Cyril Dessers wasn't the man that should lead his line long term. Danilo wasn't fit, and the Iga man wasn't ready. I think Dessers not playing the time he's had on the bench now, because those two have come to the fore. It's affected what sharpness he did have. So he was poor. The couple of times the ball came to him, he just didn't look ready at all. Not sharp in any way. So that wasn't very good. But maybe hopefully Big Cyril gets his eye in so we can get him sold. But it was just we got the job done. We got the 3 points, and that is always super important. A lot of talk, as I was saying this pod last night, about how, what's the point of winning these games? It'll just prolong the agony. Well, it doesn't matter if we win 10 games in a row, I was hearing folks saying, because then we'll lose another one. That's football. You know, if you can win 10 games in a row, then lose the next one, you'd probably be okay. You end up doing no too bad. But it's just one of those days, a really strange day. No, it's not one of those days, it's one of those things. This was quite a unique day, the way everything went down with the support. It was almost as entertaining off the park as it was on it, or as captivating. It's not my kind of idea of entertainment. But that'll do us, folks. I'll be back to talk to you Tuesday, or probably, knowing me, about 10 minutes before kick-off on Wednesday, with a preview of the Aberdeen game. But I think you've had enough from me, and you really deserve a bit of the sound of silence.